Hey everyone, it's Adam, your friend in rideshare. Let's talk a little bit about can I make a living as an Uber driver or rideshare driver, any other company like Lyft or maybe the new companies that are popping up. And it's officially called Transportation Network Company or TNC, but you'll hear people inaccurately call it rideshare. Anyhow, I've been getting this question from a lot of friends, can I do that on the side and make money? And my answer nowadays is really it depends. We've seen a lot of ebb and flow with the fares. Actually, we've seen more ebb than we have an increase in fares, especially in the Los Angeles market. And one thing you can check, I'm just going to use some California markets for an example. You're probably in another state. But what you can do is go on to the Uber or Lyft website and check your city. So lyft.com or uber.com/cities/ the name of the city. Let's look at Los Angeles and we'll take a look at the fares that you could be making here. So here's the first thing to consider. Just use your city for an example. Let's say your UberX, which is the most basic service, a basic car like a Prius or a Ford Taurus, I don't know. Maybe you're an Uber XL, so if you have like a nice large seater vehicle that takes 7 or 8 passengers, or you have a quality car like Uber Select or Uber Lux, you want to check that wow, $5 per mile, that's a huge difference compared to UberX. So keep this in mind depending on what kind of car you have for the service. Lyft doesn't offer this many levels of service currently. They just have the basic, which would be like UberX, and then they have the SUV service, which Lyft calls Lyft Plus. So you can check the website on Lyft if you're thinking about driving them as well. Now, here in LA, making $1 a mile, 18 cents a minute. So let's go back and look at our map. You can kind of see the spread here of this territory. This is actually a very frustrating territory to work in because you're dodging accidents all the time, massive amounts of traffic, a lot of different curvy roads in the hills, and then just not a lot of places to pull over and stop to pick up customers in the crowded areas. So let's say I get someone from downtown LA going to Santa Monica. That's a very regular trip. Most trips are a little shorter than that, but you can once in a while get these long trips here, and then even more rarely you're getting a long trip like maybe downtown down to Torrance or maybe all the way to Long Beach. That rarely happens. Maybe that's like nowadays that would be like a $35, $40 fare for which you're spending a good hour, and then if you don't get a ride coming back to your home base where you live, then you're going to be stuck, waiting for fares down here, or you got to make a long trek home with no customers. So this is something to keep in mind if it's really worth your time. Now let's say you're working in a market like San Luis Obispo. All right, so San Luis Obispo has a smaller territory here, not much ground to cover. I worked up here several times now, and most of the rides are very short, but look at this, making $2.45 a mile, which is still cheaper than a taxi for that area. But the only way to really make a killing is if you're getting a ride maybe from here all the way down to Santa Maria here, or Santa Maria all the way up to Pismo Beach. That's where you would make some nice fares. But if you're just doing short rides around San Luis Obispo, you're still averaging, I was averaging $10 to $11 per ride. Even so, if you're taking into consideration the short rides that are $5 or $6, and the longer rides $15 to $20, $25. Going from the beach area to the downtown slow area was good. I never had any customers so far. Working up here for about 2 weeks altogether, I didn't have any customers go out to Morro Bay or Atascadero, although I heard we have a few drivers up there. So consider your market area and what is the likeliness of you doing, long trips, and how sustainable that is. Another way you can do it is you can check the Craigslist ads. If you check the Craigslist ads for your area, you'll see that someone like an auto bot for Uber is posting in here ad nauseum. It's actually kind of ridiculous, and it's a little bit annoying to see how often Uber posts here. But I would take maybe 15 to 20% off of what they're claiming here, because this is looking at, that's like a 50-hour work week. In LA, you're more likely to make, or this is Seattle, I'm sorry. You're more likely to make, if this was LA, you're making around $650 a week for maybe 40 to 45 hours a week. And so I did some rough math. So doing some rough math here on my notes, I came up with, you're making about $650 for a 40-hour week, or $16.25 an hour before your expenses. I'm averaging 10% on gas, so that would be $65 on gas for the week, assuming gas is around $2.75, $3 a gallon. Right now, and then 10% on car maintenance depreciation, which you should be setting aside for savings. So you're really making 13 bucks an hour. So you honestly might make more money waiting tables at a nice restaurant. So in my opinion, the golden age of rideshare is over, at least in the Los Angeles market. As other markets expand and grow, there's a lot of ebb and flow. So we'll see, some drivers dropping off, as they don't want to do the job anymore, and maybe there'll be some inflation. Maybe taxis will compete more with Uber, lowering their prices. Then Uber lowers their price. Maybe the Uber rates will go back up again, back to $1.50 someday. We don't know. Another thing obvious, keep in mind how much gasoline does your car burn. That's pretty obvious. You might want to look at, I would say have at least 30 miles per gallon on your vehicle. If you don't have that, I would look at maybe getting something like a Prius or a Ford C-Max Energy. There's some great reviews online. I currently have a Prius, the standard size model. If I could do it over again, I would have got the Prius V, which is a larger size. So that's something else you can consider. Not going to wait for that to load. Another way to gauge if it's viable right now in your area is what is the current bonus amount. So if you sign up for Uber, Uber's only throwing out a $100 bonus. Well, they used to have a $500 bonus, $250 bonus. So they were really recruiting drivers heavily when they did that. Now it's only $100. So that can tell you, hey, we don't need drivers that bad. So that's a good way to gauge what's going on. If you want to know what the Lyft bonus is, you go to the Help Center. I type in the words bonus city, and then you get a link for double-sided referral bonuses. So you can see these double-sided rewards. You can see which cities may not really need drivers that bad, like Atlanta, only $50 for doing 100 rides. It's not that great of a deal. New York City, $500 for you and the person referring you for 100 rides. So with that, it's a good deal. You got to make sure you punch in the referral code on the sign-up form. So if you were going to Lyft and you were going to be signing up using my code, it would look something like this. So on the sign-up page, and then it's going to show that I'm already approved, so I can't sign up twice again from my same computer. But you saw just a glimpse of the sign-up form there with Lyft. So I would just keep those bonuses in mind as a way to gauge if your area is saturated or not. Another thing, if you're going to be good at rideshare driving, you want to make sure that you save your money for taxes and for self-employment tax. It's easy to file as an employee because your employer's done most of the work for you. In fact, you're getting a refund. But when I filed last year using, I think, TurboTax, and I filed as like the business class as self-employed, it cost me $72 to file my taxes. Interestingly enough, I had a $72 refund coming from some side jobs that I did as an actor, so it kind of zeroed out. But I've mentioned these guys before. SherpaShare.com is a free, wonderful service, great way to take care of your taxes, or I should say not take care of your taxes, but have a spreadsheet. So when you do your taxes, you just copy your information over from what you have on SherpaShare, and that helps you track income with these rideshare companies. Another thing to know is, do you have a temperament for being a driver? You can see why some taxi drivers lose their cool and stress out, or I don't know what they do to keep calm, but you're going to be having to use the restroom sometime when you have a customer in the car doing a long ride. You're going to have really bad traffic situations that are unpredictable, where it's easy to lose your cool. You're going to maybe want to have an emergency bag with clothing, extra food in case you do a really long ride. Say you're going from downtown all the way out into a rural area, could be 2-3 hours away. Well, it's a great fare. You're not going to want to say no to that. But what if you're kind of stuck out there? What if it snows and you got to take a hotel or sleep in your car? So it's good to have an emergency bag with clothes. And I would go as far as to say, even have a like spare water jug and an empty jug for bathrooms emergencies. So if you're maybe you're in a place where you can't get to a restroom and it's risky to go to the restroom outside. I've actually had to take a leak into an empty jug in my own car and then dispose of it later, because there was no place I opened there I could use a restroom, and I didn't want to risk getting urinating in public ticket. So that's I know that sounds kind of gross, but that's a serious thing you have to deal with sometimes with this job. Also, look at maybe being a double agent driving for Uber and for Lyft or whatever other companies might be out there now. It's perfectly legal because you're independent. You'll probably like one company better than the other. After a while, you'll learn, which one gives you better tips and whatnot, which one pays better in your area. And it's a little bit more work with managing your apps as requests come in, but you'll get used to that. All right, so there's some of my suggestions on whether or not you want to work as a driver. Yeah, it can be a good little side gig to make some extra money, but you really have to, give it at least a few hundred rides before you get used to it, and what good areas are to drive in and what not. And I would definitely keep these things in mind before signing up. And if you do want to get a sign-on bonus, check my links in the description at the bottom. I know this was a kind of long video, so thank you so much for sticking with me, and I really appreciate your viewership. If you want, feel free to check out any of my other videos on YouTube. Have a great day.